Okay, hi everyone. I hope the English is okay for everyone in the group. Is it okay? Yeah. Great. I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Narek. I'm currently managing partner at my product consulting firm, The Consultancy. We're very creative at picking names. And I'm also lead product manager at a startup called PixArt. I think you have heard about it. It's a mobile and web photo and video editing tool startup. A lot of experience in product management specifically and some background in engineering. So I was thinking to have this speech about the ways that products are built from like the past experiences that I've noticed many like startuppers and builders do. So I'd like to start with the question, how many people in the audience have built a product or are thinking to start a startup or product in future? Okay, so some people are into that, and I hope that others will also get interested by the end of the session. So let's start with how is the usual way of building like startups right now. So we are starting from finding and identifying the problems, and like entrepreneurs and product managers are really good at like discovering problems. And after that, we are designing a solution with our team. And we try to implement an MVP that wouldn't take like years to make, but would give the main value proposition of the product we're building. Then we ship it to the market. We are working on the growth channels, which is much harder today than it was 10 years ago. And then many of the startups are starting to think, how can I monetize my product? So that's the point where the startup and entrepreneur starts thinking about making money with the product. And it's natural because many of the entrepreneurs and startuppers are natural problem solvers. They come from the background of engineering, from the background of marketing, so they know how to sell like the solution, they know how to build the solution, but not ideally how to like monetize it. So at the end of the day, many fail at this step, and unfortunately, what many people find as a solution is they are trying to seek to raise capital. So basically, we are having all these startups that don't make money, but they're trying to raise capital so that they can figure out how to make money as they go. But the VCs usually don't like to invest in companies and startups who don't know their monetization strategy. So I'm here to talk about an alternative approach. And 4 pitfalls that usually occur when you are building the startup, the product with the flow that I described are like, usually you build one of these 4 and maybe you will like get familiar once I describe them, that you have already seen it in past experience or in some company you've worked. So first is building feature shocks. This is especially very relevant for the companies that are like built by engineers. So feature shocks is when you build too many features, and so your products becomes like this very big machine with lots of features, but A, the end user gets confused with the product because it's too complicated, and B, the price of building those features is getting so high that you need to put the price for your product high, and you're not competitive in the market and people don't want to buy it. So these are called feature shocks. So how many of you have seen products or worked where you've seen something like feature shock? Yeah, and I'm also guilty of doing so because I'm an engineer. So I've built many feature shock products that I was like, it does this and this and this and this. It's like does everything, and then user takes it and they're like, how do I use it? And they don't have a clue where to start. The other usual pitfall is called minivation. So the minivation is usually where you either underprice your product or you undervolume your product. So let's say you have high demand for the product, but you don't see that you will be having that high demand, and you are suffering from not being able to like give the volume of the product that is expected. So a very good example is the watch that was built by Swatch Group and Omega. It was called Omega Moonswatch, and it was super popular because everyone wanted to buy an Omega watch with the price of a Swatch watch, like $250. But the problem they had is they decided in the beginning that they will not be selling these watches in their online shops, only in retailers. So there was 1 year of queue for their product. Another good example is PlayStation 5. I think there are many people who are still in the queue to buy PlayStation 5 just because they are unable to provide the volumes. And like the other side of this is underpricing your product. So for example, did you know that the technology of semiconductors in the Retina display for Apple were built by a company, and it took somewhere around 20 cents for them to build the component? And when they found out that Apple was charging $50 extra per device for their Retina display, they were shocked because they were like, how is it possible to, for the product that costs 20 cents to make to be monetized for 50 bucks? But that was the reality. So this is the case when you actually can sell it for a higher price, but you naturally underprice it, thinking that it might not be sold, and you're not doing a good thing because you are leaving stakes on the table, so you're not monetizing the full potential. So the other pitfall that's usual is this called hidden gems. So hidden gems are where a company is building something, and among the line of building that thing, they're actually building a different value, but they are failing to acknowledge that they can sell that additional value. For example, many companies usually build their own CRM systems in-house. Maybe their business is not a CRM, but they build one because it's cheaper than like buying a license for Braze for 300 people. And then many of them don't really understand that they can sell that product as a B2B buy-stand product and make profit on it. A very good example was a pipeline building company that also had a great software. And when their customers were asked about what they like about the software, they learned that about the product, which was the hardware, the pipelines, they learned that people really liked the software. And when the CEO was asked, like, how do you sell the software? He was like, we don't sell the software, we just like make it. And they learned that this was like a hidden gem that they didn't really know how to make. So, and finally, the last type of a usual pitfall is called undead products. This is probably the most usual case, which is you are building a product that you shouldn't have built in the first place. So you're either solving a problem that's non-existent, or it's not a problem that people want to pay for, or you are solving the right problem but with the wrong way. And unfortunately, when like looking into companies, so many of them have these undead products, and because they have invested the time of the engineering, the resources, the marketing, they cannot like acknowledge that they need to kill the product and move forward. So they are spending a lot of time maintaining a product that doesn't really meet the market needs. So having these like pitfalls that come from this usual way of building products, let's think about what is the alternative way of building the products. And the one that I'm going to talk today is the approach of starting from understanding the monetization model and the price for the product before starting to build the product itself. So basically what we need to know is three things: willingness to pay, what value user perceives, and what are the needs. And with these three combinations, we can truly build products that people want to buy and that people get the value from. So we will go through each of these phases today, from willingness to pay to segmentation, bundling, choosing a monetization model, choosing pricing model, and we will talk a bit about behavioral pricing. I assume we might not fit in 30 minutes with the Q&A, but I will be outside here because we have another session after this, so you can come and ask any questions you want. We can even form a group there and talk around any topics. Okay, so let's start with willingness to pay analysis. What is willingness to pay analysis? It is the process of understanding what our target customers are willing to pay. So what is the price that they are ready to pay for the product? So how can you identify like willingness to pay? You usually do like how you do the user interviews of jobs to be done to identify some needs. Similar way you can do the user interviews one-on-one with target groups, even like with questionnaires that are like going broad. And you can use different methods of learning what is your customer's willingness to pay. The first method is very simple. You can ask direct questions. For example, you can ask your potential customer, what do you think would be an acceptable price for this product? Let's say for an iPhone. And then the customer would say $400, let's say. And then you can ask, okay, and what do you think would be an expensive price for this product? He would say like, I don't know, $500. And then what would be the price that would be prohibitively expensive for you to pay so you wouldn't pay? And he would say like, anything above $550 I wouldn't even consider. So you are getting some qualitative data from your target customers, and by asking these different questions, you are getting a deeper understanding of what they want to pay. And more importantly, one type of a question in these interviews that is very, very useful is the simple open question, why? So once you say, what is your acceptable price? And they say $500 or $400, you just ask, why? And you'll be surprised how much the customers will be talking about the reasons and the behaviors and understandings, everything that they put into when they are coming up with that price. So that would also additionally help for you to better understand what are the perceived value of the product and what are the needs of the customer. Other types of questions you could ask is like asking purchase probability questions, something along the lines of, on the scale of from 1 to 10, how likely would you buy this product? So you're showing a product and a price, and they're like 5 or 7. And you can change what you show and ask. Another interesting type of questions you can ask is the most least questions. So you're like, you're giving them a 10 feature set. Let's say you're saying, this is a product, here are the 10 features. And then you are trying to build subcategories of the feature pack, let's say 6 of them, and you build different variations. And you're showing them these variations, and you're trying to understand what are the most useful features in this product for you, what are the least useful features in this product for you. And by doing these different combinations, you are getting some tangible data about what is important for the users and what is not. And also the last type of simulation you can do is purchase simulations. This is the hardest to do because it requires a lot of job to be done upfront, but it is the most scientifically correct method out of this in terms of precision. And the idea here is you are building different configurations of feature and price. You are showing it to people and asking them if they would buy it or not. So by showing these different configurations, 5-6 configurations per user, you're getting a better understanding of what is the price and feature combo that they would like most and the best. So the next, okay, is my slide copied? Let me check. So it's 4, 5, segmentation. Okay, I think I've bugged on my slide with the segmentation, so it won't be useful to look at, but I'll speak about it. So the segmentation is the process of finding different buckets of users with different needs. It's very natural. Once you did your willingness to pay analysis, you will not learn that all of your users are willing to pay $50 for X features, yes? You would more get a map of different points, and then you will be noticing some clusters. You will see okay, so there's this category of people who are very price conscious. They really want it to be cheap, but they are not really caring about the top-notch quality or some customer care features or some enterprise features that they don't really care. So this is one segment. The other segment would be I want everything and anything, and I don't really care about the price that much. So that's a different segment. So by understanding and identifying from your willingness to pay analysis these segments, you can actually understand that you can build different product lines for different segments. And so the one idea about the segmentation is if you do segmentation, you are building different product for each segment. So if you will do the segmentation, but you will be building the same product, then it's not a segmentation. You don't really need to do it because you didn't identify different enough user groups to make sense. And one usual pitfall that companies do is when they get this segmentation idea and they get hype about it, they start building so many segments that they are unable to physically operate and build products for. So you need to be very cautious on making sure that your segments are not artificial and occluding too much into one another, and that your team is operationally capable of building these different segments. If you feel that you're not ready enough, you can start from one segment. But the important thing here is not to make average. So when you get this data, if you do average, you will build a product that's average in everything but doesn't serve to anyone specifically. So it's better to pick some segment that you think you would be best at capturing and focus on that one with the idea and strategy to expand on the other segments in the future. Okay. So once you identify the segments, a very useful strategy to build a product is called bundling. So bundling is a process when you are combining different parts of products or different product lines together in the bundle and you sell the bundle. For example, it's like a meme, I think, in internet. They are saying, are you a Slack and Gmail company or Teams and Microsoft Office company? So these are bundles, and whenever Microsoft saw that Slack was becoming this big corporate software of communication, they were very keen on making the Teams so that they could vendor lock companies to use their ecosystem. So by doing bundling, you are creating ecosystems, and the cost to switch to other vendor is becoming higher and higher. And another tactic is unbundling. So a very popular company that has used the unbundling tactic is Ryanair. So Ryanair saw that flying via plane was very expensive thing. And they were like, what can we do to make it cheaper? And they took out all the things that were standard in all airline products. And they're like, we will sell this as a feature to you. If you don't want, don't opt in. So you have the choice to buy the cheapest option. So by unbundling, they actually created a better market value. And so when you're building and bundling your features, there are three main types of features, which are called leaders, fillers, and killers. Leaders are the features that are super important and that this segment of customers is having high willingness to pay. So this is what you should be including in your bundle. Fillers are more nice to have features. They would like to have them, but if your package is all about the fillers, they wouldn't be paying for it. And the killers are the features that this customer is not interested in. So if you were going to charge for having a killer feature, probably people wouldn't opt in. So you should be making sure that not more than 20% of your features in a bundle is a killer, and you should start eliminating the killer features. And so once you identify this, you build the package, and one of the good tactics is building the good, better, and best offerings. So you create one offering that's good enough, one that's better, and one that's best. And the best one is the most expensive. The good one is cheap, but the better one is a little bit more expensive than the cheap, and you would be usually selling the better one because of the good one. And so the next thing, once you understand your segments, your willingness to pay, you're bundling your product, is what is the model of monetization you should choose. And here there are different options. I will not talk too much about this because I think you've all read about it. It's the subscription model. Dynamic pricing is when the price is changing, like Yandex Taxi, for example, based on the demand. Market-based pricing are the auctions like eBay, where the market itself is defining the price for the product. So you as a marketplace builder are not intervening into the payment into the price generation. Alternative metric pricing is what AWS and other server companies do. They, rather than charging you for buying some software, they are charging you, let's say, for usage, pay as you go. You can pay for the hours of server time used. And the freemium model is the most popular model that we all use in our apps that we use. Some part of free, some part is paid. So the other thing in this topic is the pricing models. there are like 3 very popular pricing models of how you can enter the market. The first one is called maximization. So it is when you want to maximize in short term. So you are setting a very high price in the beginning, and you're trying to squeeze as much as possible from the market. Let's say you have a problem to like show revenues because you need an investment or something. So you're maximizing it. The skimming is the opposite process. When you are starting the penetration model, or as they call it, land and expand, is the opposite process. So this is where you are setting intentionally very low price to enter the market, to grow in the market, and then you are raising the prices. For example, like we had the Gigi Taxi in Yerevan. So Yandex Taxi wanted to enter the market. They did the penetration technique. They put a very low price in the beginning to get the market share, and once it was there, they started to higher the price. And the last model is called skimming. So the skimming is when you understand that there is a big segment of early adopters that would really value being first of having something. So for example, Porsche Cayenne, when first introduced, it introduced the V8 model, and then 1 year later the V6 model, because they knew they can charge more for the V8 model, and the people who want to buy the V8 model want to be exclusive. They don't want the other peasants driving the V6 model to be there next to them. So they choose the skimming model. They started with the V8 with a higher price and then lowered the price for the V6 next year. And finally,
same with Tesla. They introduced the first S model, right?
Yeah, same. Great example, Tesla. And finally, the last thing I would like to talk today is about the behavioral pricing. So we all understand that when choosing to buy something, the process of choosing is not objective, it's very subjective, it's very related to people behaviors and different psychology. So here are some examples of different behavioral tactics that you can apply when you're setting your pricing. The first is called compromise effect. When you set one product with one price, your customers are either I buy it or not, like it's 50-50. But you could create like 3 product lines, and first one would be cheaper, third one would be expensive, the middle ground would be somewhere like best of all. And usually people tend to like compromise, so you might increase your sales by giving these options. Anchoring tactics are about building an anchoring product. So what you do is you create a product that is bid in terms of packaging and price, and then you create another product that is a bit more expensive but is much better value. So by this anchoring product, you are making your other product look like a very good deal. So you're going through this anchoring tactic, actually selling the another product through this one, like $100 for package A, $120 for package A plus A, B, and C, and $200 for the highest priced package. And everyone like, okay, I'll go for $120 because it seems like a better value for money. Third tactic is premium pricing. So premium pricing is when your product is intentionally priced higher so that it can convey a premium value proposition. A very good example is Apple Watch. Apple decided to put their watch at a higher price than they would actually analyze they will be selling, but they stick to it even when their sales were bad at the beginning, because they knew if they put the price lower, they wouldn't be perceived as a premium product, so their sales in long term would be diminished. Razor blades is the tactic that printer manufacturers use. I think you have all bought printers. Everyone hates printers because you buy it for $100 and you are refilling the cartridges for $200. That's the tactic. So the razor blades is called because of Gillette and how they do. They sell you the blade and then they upsell you the changeable razors on it. So this is basically saying you can sell some value proposition that will get into the product line cheap and then upsell other products on top of it. Pennies a day pricing is a very good strategy if you are afraid that your price for the whole product will be too high. Let's say for a server you could buy it for $10,000, or you can rent it on AWS with 5 cents a minute. So it's much a better alternative in terms you are not very afraid to get into it. So it's called a pennies a day pricing. And finally, the last thing is psychological price threshold. I think everyone has heard about it. Pricing something $2.99, not $3, something like $99, not $100. I would not recommend using these tactics in some B2B software where your customer is enterprise, because they'll be like, I feel like in Costco. But in many situations where you are building a consumer business, this is a really good tactic. And when you find the threshold and psychological threshold, you can actually monetize the potential to full. Let's say if it's $199, but you set your price $179, then you're losing $20 that you could monetize before that. So I think this was very dense, and the summary of this is that I'm suggesting, and it's not my idea, I'm just like presenting it here, to build products and innovation around the price and monetization model, not vice versa. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you for listening. We have 3 minutes for questions, and then the others we can take outside.
I want to know one thing, just about Porsche Cayenne. It seems like the company, the whole company life produced niche cars, supercars, and then they were around bankruptcy, and then they made Cayenne to popularize this car. So it was not so expensive car, but for everyone, for everybody, not for not exclusive. I think it's a questionable point to say.
Yeah. I was most like more speaking in terms of relative price to V6 model. So it was like if I buy 80K a V8 model, I don't feel comfortable other people also driving the V6 model that they paid 60K. And a very interesting point in Porsche's story is their management actually implied very good product discovery techniques when doing this research. There is a very interesting story about how they came to validating that Porsche Cayenne and Panamera would actually work. Thank you for the question.
I have a question. So during your pricing research, when you are asking questions, how you gonna make the potential buyers to realize the value of the product in order them to come up with the pricing suggestions, right? Like the ranges or whether they apply or not.
Yeah, that's a great question, and actually it brings to a very good point in this all willingness to pay analysis, which is it should be a value talk, it shouldn't be a price talk. If you form the talk in terms of the customer understand that you try to get a price, it wouldn't be that efficient. But if you form the conversation around the value that they will be like getting, talk more about the features, about the problem, and then in the end give them an open question like, what do you think, what would be the price? That is when this model starts to work. So that's a very good question. Okay, thanks everyone for listening.